right, thanks for joining me on another episode of Why Not Go, the channel dedicated to rock and roll, especially punk and especially the Sex Pistols. Thank you everyone for watching the videos and commenting and liking them if you like them. I've gotten quite a few comments over the last few months where some of the viewers have asked me about the books behind me, and so I thought I'd just do a short video on books about punk, the Sex Pistols, and just letting you know what my favorite book is on the Sex Pistols, and asking you the same thing. What's your favorite book on the Sex Pistols or punk in general? I love to read. One of my favorite things to do, especially on a Saturday, is I like to spend about half the day reading if I can. I love everything from pulp fiction, crime fiction, historical stuff. I don't know, you name it. I just love to. I love to read, and I love to read books on musicians, especially by the musicians themselves. And I love reading rock and roll books. I've actually read quite a few more than these here, but over the years, sometimes you lose books, or you read something, you give it to a friend, and but these days I like to hang on to my books. So let's talk about the Sex Pistol books. I'll start with this shelf here. I just read this one recently. It's called England's Dreaming by John Savage. Actually, a viewer had recommended it to me, and I had heard about it for a long time, and I just didn't read it because sometimes I don't read books by journalists. As I said, I like to read books by the musicians themselves. But I'm glad I read this, though. I bought it, as I said, not that long ago, and it's the Sex Pistols are on the cover, and it's mostly about the Sex Pistols, but I'd highly recommend it because if you want just sort of an overview on punk, he does a great job. He talks about the New York punk scene, the British punk scene, of course, especially the Sex Pistols. And he also goes into great detail about the LA punk scene where I'm from, which I thought was that was neat that he included LA and San Francisco as well. So it's a great book about not just about the Sex Pistols, but about punk in general. And I thought it was great. I read it pretty quickly. Joe said to me once, you're a fast reader, but when you read a book about punk, you don't read it. He said, you devour it. So I think I devoured this one pretty quickly. So, okay, so the next book on the shelf, I'll take this one. And this is another book I'd recommend. 12 Days on the Road with the Sex Pistols by Noel Monk, who was their tour manager. I did a video on the tour, and I used this as the template because if you want to know what happened on that tour, it's a day-by-day, almost hour-by-hour account of that infamous tour that I followed. I went to 3 dates, and I have a video on following the Sex Pistols, as well as a video on this book. And it's great. It filled in a lot of blanks in my knowledge about what exactly happened, and you read in this book, or you learn from this book, how some things are pretty dysfunctional, and poor Sid was in really bad shape. It goes into graphic detail on Sid, because Noel was really kind of his personal minder, because he knew that he was the one most in trouble, and so you learn, like, when he threw up, when he did heroin, when he slept with a transvestite. It's very graphic, and I don't know, but it's great. It's just a great chronicle of this. Very sad that they broke up on the last day, January 14th, And I learned after reading this book how, as I said, how kind of dysfunctional things were, and I think when Malcolm and Steve and Paul decided to go to Brazil and didn't really take into account what Johnny wanted to do. That was the breakup. That was the kind of irreparable damage that happened. So anyway, it's very graphic, but it's a great chronicle of the January 1978 tour. So this is another one that I enjoyed reading. This one I got a long time ago. I think it came out, the Sex Pistols, compiled and edited by Fred and Judy Vermorel. I think I bought this when it came out. I think it came out in the late 70s. And Fred and Judy Vermel, I hope I'm pronouncing their name right, they were friends of Malcolm's. They knew him personally. And what I love about this book is that it has the diary of Sophie Richmond, Malcolm's secretary, the woman that I met when I went to the Glitter Best office in 77. And so it's her diary of kind of running the office and what was going on. Also lots of quotes from different people, including Debbie Juvenile. And it's great. I haven't read it in a very long time, but I loved it. I remember mostly because of Sophie Richmond's diary. It's a real inside look into things that were going on with the band. So that's the Sex Pistols. And okay, next one, I guess I'll take it down off the shelf. This one is 1988. I believe I got this one too when it came out. I think it came out also a long time ago, and might have come out in the late 70s. And it's Carolyn Coon's account and she was obviously a famous journalist, and she coined the phrase the Bromley contingent. And I love this book for her writing, but also because of the pictures. I mean, she's got some great. It kind of opens up there with the picture of the Clash. There's great photos from the whole section on the Sex Pistols. There's a whole section on the 100 Club. Pictures from the punk festival at the 100 Club. That was in September of 1976. And it ends with a nice picture of Viv Albertine there. So I love this book. It's great. It's kind of half pictures and half text. And Carolyn Coon, she was obviously there on the scene with the Sex Pistols at a very early on in their career. So. And I love the cover. It's just such a great cover. Such a great photo of Johnny. Okay, so this book I refer to a lot in my videos, and I think it came out not that long ago. I think it came out in 2020. And it's The Life and Times of Malcolm McLaren by Paul Gorman. It's a really big book. It's 600 pages, approximately 600 pages. And I remember when I first got it, I thought, well, I want to learn about Malcolm, but I don't know, 600 pages. I wasn't sure that I was going to get through it, and I got through it really quickly. I loved it. It's not just about Malcolm McLaren. It's obviously about the Sex Pistols as well. But you learn a lot about Malcolm McLaren in this book. There was also another biography on Malcolm McLaren, and I have read that one. I don't have that one anymore, and I can't remember the title of that one offhand. But this one, the details are just amazing. That's why I do refer to this book a lot in my videos. He just has the dates of so many things that happened in the band, including when they met Johnny at the Roebuck pub, and their first rehearsals, and also it's a lot about Malcolm. You kind of understand him a little better after reading the book. He had an estranged kind of relationship with his mother. He wasn't close to his mother. He wanted to kind of get away from her as soon as possible, and his family was in the clothing business, and it talks about his death and his girlfriend Young Kim, who was with him in the last few years of his life. I mean, it's just the research is, I don't know how he did it. The research and the details in this book are just phenomenal. It's the most detailed book I think I've ever read as far as a rock biography. And so this is great. Not for everybody, maybe, who maybe don't want to know everything there is to know about Malcolm McLaren. But if you do, this is a great book. And just on a side note, I actually corresponded with Paul Gorman, the author, about something. We were emailing back and forth, and I mentioned that I had met Malcolm McLaren at the Whiskey. I have a video about that. The first time I met him, it was at a show with the Ramones and Blondie. It was kind of a big deal when they both came to town, and I talked to Malcolm, and anyway, that was in I believe it was February or March of 1977, and I mentioned this to Paul Gorman, and he said, "Oh," he says, "no, you didn't meet him then. He didn't come to L.A. until the summer." And I said, "No, I'm sure it was. I think it was March. I'm sure it was March of '77." And then sure enough, he looked it up in his own book, and he said, "Oh no, you were right. He was there." So that's how many details this book has. I mean, even the author forgot some of the details of his own book. So, but I love it. I mean, Paul Gorman did just an amazing job on Malcolm McLaren. All right, so the next shelf here, oh, sorry, Johnny, stay there, is obviously books by the band members themselves. I believe Lydon has written 2 books. I know I've read 2 books. I only have one now. As I said, sometimes I've lost books over the years. I think the first one was called No Irish, No Blacks, No Dogs. And then this one is obviously Anger is an Energy. I love the title, My Life Uncensored. And I love both his books. They're very conversational. I get the feeling that he probably, speaks into a microphone and someone transcribes it later. It's very, it's just like he's chatting with you. I learned quite a bit in both these books. One of the things I learned in this book was, he talks about one of their reunion tours. It might have been one of the last reunion tours, and he mentions that they put the other members put a cassette under his hotel door, and because they wanted to start writing, material with him, and it was a very sad moment because Johnny didn't want to. He thought the music was awful. They wanted him to put some lyrics to some music, and the fact that they had to slide it under his door, I thought that just said volumes, that they were afraid to approach him as far as wanting to write music with him again, not just to do the Sex Pistol tours. And he flatly refused. He didn't respond to them. So I love it when people when I learn things like that the other members probably wanted to release another album and do some new music together, but he did not. But anyway, it's Lydon, so it's I don't know if he really lets his guard down too much, but he's funny and there's always something interesting to learn from him. So I love that book, Anger is an Energy. It's got a great cover as well, and so next, I've got this one. I just got this one recently, and when I was in London, and I'm so glad it's a signed copy. So that's Glen's signature there, and I believe this one is fairly new, 2023. Yes, it came out in 2023. Obviously, he has the other book, I Was a Teenage Sex Pistol, and I loved this book. I loved it because he talks a lot about his life after the Sex Pistols. He struggled with alcohol. He had to give alcohol up, and there's a moment in this book where he thought he was going crazy. He was waiting outside the pub for it to open because he was, just anxious for that first drink of the day. And I think he opened up some potato chips, a bag of potato chips, and his name was printed inside, and he thought he was going he actually thought he was losing his mind, and then it turns out that when he looked at the outside of the bag, I think it was potato chips, but and when he looked at the outside of the bag, it was some kind of snack. It said it was a question: who was the original bass player of the Sex Pistols? So he wasn't going crazy, but he thought he was going crazy, and he talks about working with Blondie. I really liked it. He talks about the Sex Pistols, of course, but he talks about his life and his struggles afterwards. And I always like books where people, let their guard down, or let you know about their sort of weaker moments in life. So this one's great. I'm glad he's written 2 books. And someone said recently that maybe Paul Cook might be writing a book, which I think would be great, since he's the only one that hasn't written a book. Well, Lonely Boy. What can you say about Lonely Boy? This is great. I love the title, love the cover, and I love this book too because similar to Glen's book, Triggers, he talks about his, not just the Sex Pistols, but his personal struggles, his horrible home life when he was growing up, and how Malcolm was like a surrogate father. And Malcolm really took him in. He used to sleep at Malcolm's flat, sharing a room with his son. And Steve Jones was really like a character out of a Dickens novel, like was it The Artful Dodger? He really just had a terrible home life. His father was sexually abused him, his stepfather rather, and his mother seemed like she cared more about her husband than she did her son. And I loved it. I loved it because he really just just sort of talked about his life, not just the Sex Pistols. So I thought it was great, and he talks about obviously living in L.A. and he seems very happy with his Jonesy's Jukebox. So I'm not surprised this was made into the miniseries, the Pistol miniseries, and I think it's and I can see why, because it's personal. It's not just about the Sex Pistols. I think even if you didn't care about the Sex Pistols and you read this book, you would find it interesting, because he's someone that really came from a very deprived background and did some bad things, and but got through it all with the help of this guy here, Malcolm McLaren. So this is the last of the Sex Pistol books. I'm sure some people have more. This is just my collection, and as I said, I've lost some books along the way. This came out in 1990. I was a teenage Sex Pistol, and obviously he's talking about his time in the band, and I love this one too. This one I got through it, I think, in one night. I loved it so much. And he talks about how he was so young, and his time in the band was really pretty short, a year and a half, although he was with Steve and Paul before they met Lydon. But as far as being in the Sex Pistols with Lydon, it really only lasted a year and a half. And very painful, I think, that how his how he was kind of pushed out. I believe how he words it is, either in this book or that book, is that he decided to leave when they said that he found out they were secretly rehearsing with Sid. So that must have been very painful. But it sounds like he was ready to leave anyway. So that's my collection. Not that big, but I love these books. I guess if I'm gonna say which is my favorite of all my Sex Pistols books, it's not really hard for me to decide. It's this one. It's Lonely Boy. As I said, it's you could not even care about the Sex Pistols, and I think you would like this book. I just loved it. It's just it's a kind of a coming of age story of a young boy who just came from difficult surroundings. And I love the part in the Hulu series, or I was Hulu over here, the part of the Pistol miniseries where Malcolm goes to court and stands up for him and prevents him from going to jail. And he said that was the first time anyone ever stood up for him in his life and cared about him. And that's why he had such a strong bond with Malcolm, because Malcolm really was like the father that he didn't have. And he also talks about in this book about Malcolm and Vivian taking him to health food restaurants. I think they went to one called Cranks, which I remember in Soho, and he'd never been to a health food restaurant. I mean, they really kind of took the street urchin out of his surroundings and gave him somewhat of an education, and gave him some guidance. So I just think it's great. I love this book. So this is my favorite book. I would say if you are at all interested in reading about the Sex Pistols and you only want to read one book, I would read Lonely Boy. I think it's just fantastic. In fact, I feel like rereading it now. And then if anyone's interested, I do have some other books here. As far as punk books, I love this book, Viv Albertine. And much like Steve Jones' book, Lonely Boy, she doesn't talk just about being in the Slits. She talks about her life. She talks about her life after the Slits, and her struggles to have a baby, and then the collapse of her marriage, and how she got back into music again. She literally went to open mics at pubs, I think in Hastings, where she lived. And I can't imagine that, because to me she would be so famous. And she went to open mics and started playing guitar again, and was able to kind of get her creative life back after that. So so it's very much a personal story, but she does talk about the Slits, and I just thought it was great. I loved it. I love this book. And then this here is M Train, Patti Smith. It's a signed copy. I read a lot of her books. I think my favorite is, maybe not this one, it's Just Kids. I think she won the Pulitzer Prize for Just Kids, which is about her friendship with Robert Mapplethorpe, and that was a beautiful book. But I pretty much read whatever she brings out, because I love her writing. She's a great writer. And then that's my Unknown Pleasures book. I've talked about that. Peter Hook's book. If you want to know about all their gigs and the how the band started, this is a great book, Peter Hook's book. And then this book I have here, Bowie in Berlin. I love this book because I think that for Bowie and Iggy, those I think 3 years when they were creating together, such beautiful albums on both of them, for both of them. And it talks about writing the song China Girl together. It's just it's a great book, and I like it because it's just that those albums and that time period when Bowie and Iggy were in Berlin, and it's really fascinating. I love it. And then and you can see I've got some other rock books up there. I have a book on Prince and a couple Bob Dylan books, and then just a couple more punk books. This one, Man Enough to Be a Woman by Jane County. I love this book. I interviewed her, Jane County's manager, Peter Crowley, who used to book Max's Kansas City. So his book is great as well. But Jane County's book, I loved it because obviously Jane County used to be Wayne County in the electric chairs. She really had an incredible life. She was she worked with Andy Warhol on it was called Pork. It was a play. And even before punk, she was very active in the art scene in New York. And then obviously she talks a lot about the punk scene and what she's been doing lately. I'd love to interview her. I've reached out, but I haven't heard anything. She lives in Atlanta, so I could drive there from Florida. But this is a great book for early punk stuff, and also even before punk, like 1971, 72. She also has some interesting stories about Bowie and Rod Stewart in this book. So I really love that. And I love that title, Man Enough to Be a Woman. I love the song. And then lastly, this book, I Dreamed I Was a Very Clean Tramp by Richard Hell. he is a fantastic writer. And even if you don't care about punk, I think you would like this book. I can't remember when it came out, but Richard Hell, of course, he had the song Blank Generation, Richard Hell and the Voidoids. And but he's really an exceptional writer. And I learned a lot about the early New York punk scene in this, because obviously he was in television and the Heartbreakers. And he also talks about going over to London during the punk era. And it's just great. And he talks about his life after punk. I think he got out of music pretty early on. But he's just a fantastic writer. I dreamed I was a very clean tramp, Richard Hell. That was a great read. In fact, I feel like rereading it now. So so that's basically it. I've lost a lot of punk books and books along the way, but those are the books mainly that you see behind me. I've got this Lou Reed one. I love biographies, and that was just a Lou Reed biography I picked up. That was really interesting. I mean, he was such an interesting person. So so yeah, that's my collection. I just thought I would talk about it since a few people have asked. But yeah, but these are my the books I really love, because it's about the Sex Pistols. And as I said, Lonely Boy, if you haven't read it, read it. It's great. But they're all great. I enjoyed all of them. So that's my my book Sex Pistol Punk book collection video. Hope you like it, and let me know what your favorite books are for punk, Sex Pistols, or music in general. And let me know if there's something you think I should read, because as I said at the beginning of the video, I wouldn't have read that, but at least one or two viewers mentioned, oh, I have to read England's Dreaming, and I'm so glad I did. So anyway, so that's my video in my little book area in my second bedroom here. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, I'll be seeing you.